My own room! I can hang my clothes on the rail, I can put some of my drawings on the wall, I can perhaps make a new patchwork counterpane, I can do my homework on the bedside table. Perhaps Dad will put up some shelves for my books and I will no longer have to keep them under the bed. My thoughts were interrupted when I realised that Charlie had got out of bed and was standing beside it. "Charlie, get back into bed, you'll get cold." He just stood there looking at me with an expression of hatred. "It's not my fault, Charlie. Dad says that what's going to happen, so we can't do anything about it." He still just stood there staring at me. He looked so small and helpless. His lower lip started to tremble and his big spaniel brown eyes were wet with tears. "You can still come into my room and I will read your stories to you before you go to sleep." He made no response. He just stood there looking at me. "Do you want to come into my bed with me?" He moved a little closer and I lifted up the bedclothes. He climbed in. I tried to hold him, but he pushed himself away. His feet were frozen from standing on the cold lino. I tried to put my arm around him and bring him closer to me to warm him, but he turned his back to me and shuffled away again. I could feel the shaking of his body, either from the cold or his sobbing. But gradually our bodies melted into one temperature and I laid my hand on his back. He didn't object and slowly turned to face me. He stretched out his hand and found mine, but the hurt and misery still showed in his face. He never spoke. I don't suppose he knew the words to say. I didn't know what words to say either. If I could have made it better for him, then I would have. But as Mum says, what's done is done. "Charlie?" No response. "Charlie, can you keep a secret?" "What?" "Well, if I tell you, you mustn't tell Mum or Dad or the others." "All right." "Well, if you get out of bed and bring me my bag from under the bed, I'll show you the present that I've got for you all, and especially for you." This seemed to interest him, and all I could see was his bare bum as he crawled beneath the bed. He brought the bag and climbed back into bed. "Look." "What is it?" "It's a stick of rock from Whitby." He took it from me and examined it. "What's it for?" "It's to eat, silly. It's made of sugar and very sweet, and look, it's magic. You see this name on the end? Well, that says Whitby, and if you look at the other end, it still says Whitby. It goes all the way through. Can I have some?" "No, it's for all of us, and Mum will cut it up into pieces for us tomorrow." His face crumpled again, so I took the rock and tapped it against the table. A piece about an inch long broke off. I took off the cellophane covering and picked out the broken shards and handed them to him to taste. "Oh, lovely, lovely. I want some more." Before I had time to refuse, he'd taken the whole inch long and stuffed it into his mouth. "You naughty I started to say, but he seemed so happy again, and I thought that he had had enough troubles for one night. He kept sucking it and then taking it out of his mouth at intervals and looking to see if the letters were still there. Oh well, I'd have to tell Mum that I couldn't resist tasting it myself and she could cut it up into 6 pieces instead of 7. How I would explain the sticky mess that was on Charlie's vest and the bedclothes, I didn't know, but as Mum says, tomorrow is another day. Charlie looked so contented and peaceful as he slept, and I didn't put him back in his own bed. I couldn't move much or turn over, but his warm body, like a human water bottle, made it all right. I thought of Richard and wondered if he would write to me and if I'd ever see him again. I looked at Charlie with his arms above his head and his face sticky with rock. Poor Charlie. We all have to learn that nothing stays the same forever. Life's not the same all the way through, like the name on a stick of rock.